Добро пожаловать на страницу журнала «Богема».
Журнал «Богема».
Журнал «Богема».
Пожалуйста, внимание на видеоэкран. Прошу. Режиссера Клим Шипенко, прошу любить и жаловать. И прошу составить ему компанию для дружеской беседы на этой сцене сербского кинорежиссера Эмиром Кустурицей.
Спасибо. Мне очень приятно и безумно я счастлив, конечно, что у меня такая возможность с вами поговорить и задать хоть и не 1000 вопросов, которые у меня есть к вам, но хотя бы там небольшое то количество, которое я выбрал. Перевод происходит.
Мне не надо переводить. Мне очень жалко, что я не могу говорить серьезно русский. И ответы будут английские, если удобно, угодно.
Начну с такого легкого первого вопроса. 3 месяца назад у меня была премьера в Белграде моего фильма «Вызов», и я и Милош Бикович, который играл там главную мужскую роль, приглашали вас на премьеру, вы сказали, вы не сможете прийти, потому что сломали руку. Как ваша рука?
Я сломал ногу.
А, ногу? Как ваша нога?
Сломил ногу. Я думал, что никогда все не будет, как было перед тем. Но сейчас я плавал каждый день, и нога, это здорово, хорошо.
Это прекрасно. Ну, начнем теперь с вопросов, которые я приготовил для вас. Я знаю, что какое-то время назад вы думали снять фильм по российской книге, известной культовой российской книге Венедикта Ерофеева «Москва. Петушки». Это так?
Это было, но это было давно уже. Продуцент, который был из producer who was from Germany, he asked me to make a movie in Moscow in which people will speak English. And I said, this is impossible. How can you feel the city and the Moscow if the actors are not speaking English? Especially the book, which speaks about a drunken man and having such a beautiful vertigo in the mind of an alcoholic. So the film was not made because of this. He was very ready to. But this was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Это было давно. Это было, я думаю,
20 лет.
20 лет.
20 лет назад.
У меня все, что я думаю, 10 лет, это 20 лет.
А правда, что когда вы про это думали и обсуждали, вы думали предложить играть роль Венечки Ерофеева Брэду Питту? Брэду Питту, чтобы сыграл главного ну, героя фильма.
Да.
Что Брэд Питт сыграл русского алкоголика.
I did not understand this, I must say, even though I speak Russian.
Was it true that you thought about Brad Pitt to play the main role?
No. I never think, you know, Hollywood and myself, these are two very different universes. Mm-hmm. We hate each other profoundly, and this lack of friendship is very steady. Mm-hmm. I'm friends with Johnny Depp, who is my very close friend, but our friendship comes out of nowhere. Except that, you know, I made the Arizona Dream with him, and which was the way to recognize the differences in between being in Hollywood and just passing by. I passed by with French money, but a great thing that happened is, in fact, that friendship arose with him. Mm-hmm. And Johnny is finally out of Hollywood. And luckily he is living out of the center of the film industry, in which I know that they robbed him for $600 million. Mm-hmm. So you imagine $600 million being robbed by agent, by lawyer, and by some even relatives. Mm-hmm. But now he's okay. And he's okay. It's very funny that he's back, not thanks to some great movie that he did. He is back because somebody wants him to be back, thanks to the widespread people following the court case. Mm-hmm. with the wife, Amber, I don't know how you call it. But John is a great heart.
Я так понял, что лучше по-английски сразу мне задавать, поэтому я буду задавать сразу на английском тогда, чтобы не...
Не, можно.
Да? Ну, раз мы заговорили про Голливуд, и у меня есть вопрос, я его хотел задать позже, но задам сейчас про Голливуд. Для многих режиссеров работать в Голливуде, ну, это мечта. Это как попасть в высшую лигу, и я так понял, что у вас такой мечты не было, правильно? Вас вполне устраивала карьера вне Голливуда.
I must say that Hollywood, for me, had stopped being a great place for cinema in the 70s. It became fashion much earlier with the Lubitsch, with the great movies, 40s, 50s. And then it came, I would say, revolution after Vietnam War, and they were quite great achievements from Coppola to many other directors who were making the time of independent cinema connected to Hollywood, and which was in fact a long time going on, but then in the end we found Harvey Weinstein, who was in fact a predator, who was one of the symbols of Hollywood of all times. And now Hollywood is just a place where people, some of the people that I know, Mel Gibson, for example, is fighting for something that is discovered over there, and it's child abuse. They say that through, even Hollywood is involved in a very dangerous but very profitable job of trafficking children from Mexico and Latin America, and even making bigger profit than most of the Hollywood does during the year. And now there is a movie which came out, which was somehow blocked by I'm speaking about this because this seems to be like revolutionizing the place which was having mythological heights of starting a long time ago with the Jewish people moving from Vienna, going to Los Angeles, building studios, building great atmosphere, bringing great directors. Then it became part of the American dream. They were doing beautiful films, and then it peaked in 70s, and after 70s it's more or less cinema that you could find even in Iran that is much more stronger and existential than to go Hollywood. I didn't want to go there because you lose your personality and you adapt yourself to some parameters that it's not necessary that you like. Mm-hmm. Even it's still a symbol of success, of progress, or whatever. Everything that I don't belong to.
Понятно. Тогда я сразу про эту же тоже тему продолжу. Хотели ли вы когда-нибудь, флиртовали ли вы с идеей снять чисто жанровый фильм, там, не знаю, боевик, например? Ну и, конечно, если бы вам предложили снять фильм в супергеройской вселенной, но с правом финального монтажа, с Final Cut, вы бы сняли?
No. This is the main point. You just brought up something that you cannot get. When you sign a contract in France with some studio, with bigger money project, you still keep by the law Final Cut. I was speaking to Andron Konchalovsky when he was spending time in Hollywood, and he told me the Runaway Train, while he was shooting some of his scenes, that he said the next scene we put the train here and we put the people there, and the producer came to him and he was very delicate. He said, "You don't need to do it, just stay here, we're already preparing everything, we're going to do as it's proper as possible."
Да, мой вопрос был, если бы вам дали право Final Cut. Final Cut — это право делать большой фильм как автор.
Я особенно не верю, что это возможно. Потому что если там люди, у которых огромные деньги, если они эти деньги, кому они это дают? Человеку, который цыган с Балкана, который никогда не знаешь, как это закончит. Я думаю, что это
невозможно.
Mission impossible.
А как вы относитесь к таким фильмам, как «Джокер»?
Joker is a modern movie I respect, and I think it's quite propaganda movie. Yeah, it is a propaganda movie. It speaks about the darkness of New York in the period of Trump, which is their big enemy. And I think everything in cinema, I think the Chinese are the most, I would say, honest by saying propaganda department which gives the money to this. I think Joker is a great propaganda. Listen, the best part of Soviet cinema was propaganda. I was growing up, I was watching my first good movies that I recognized. The quality was Dovzhenko's movies, Budovkin's movies, even some Eisenstein films. So why not to believe that Joker is a perfect film, but also propaganda?
Я ему привел пример как фильм во вселенной, в супергеройской вселенной, который сделан, и ты видишь авторскую руку в этом, то есть руку не студии как раз и продюсеров, а именно авторский стиль, который идет вразрез с тем, что мы все думали, как эти вселенная Марвел работает, как она снята, и что как раз там нету индивидуальности. Это фильм, который выглядит индивидуально.
Я думаю, что этот фильм, что этот актер сделал этот фильм, и что там нет такая комплексность. There is no complexity in the image. There is a narrow mind, which is probably typical for a New Yorker today. But I don't think it's for me. I've seen it in Venice when I was there. It's a good movie, but compared to a taxi driver, it's
Yeah. I understand.
You cannot compare it, and maybe you don't need to compare the two.
Ну да. Вопрос про как раз продолжение взаимоотношений с продюсерами у вас. А какие они у вас были до того, когда вы уже стали, вам ничего уже они не могли вам сказать, диктовать? Какие они были, как вы лавировали между тем, что вы хотите сделать, и как раз, что они от вас ждут?
I must tell you now a little bit more about my case. You know, probably not so many people around the world were so lucky as I was in the beginning of my career. Every film I've done, it was a movie that was sweeping the festival, getting many awards. So the difficulty of my life was that each next step was supposed to be a film. If doesn't get Golden Palm, if doesn't get the Golden Bear, it doesn't get the Golden Lion, even if it's good, it's very difficult to believe that it's good because it's not anymore the guy who used to make great movies. And they were not even interfering into the process. But I must tell you that shooting a movie for me is a question, existential question, not question of money, but the question of the mirror of my spirit, which is not very steady, and it's always, and it was in the past, a problem to finance. I have started my career in the television, and then I was lucky that one of the biggest builders in France has seen the movie Time of the Gypsies, and he came, sent a guy to New York, and he said, if you want to make a movie, blanco check and do it, and that's how Underground was made. And I still believe that I'm a part of my, a victim of myself, because I take every moment of cinema like a battle for against Russia and Napoleon. I'm always fighting the way that I can. So it came to the point where political opinion became very important. If you say, and if you don't say Putin is a bad guy in the West, you're not welcome in any layer of the story. You might be wise enough not to mention any political life, but I'm trying to be a useful political idiot who just says what he believes it must be told by somebody who has a chance and has a microphone. So combining the expensive films, my political opinion, we came to the point where not many people even wish to finance it because they don't know how will come, what will be the exit of this film, you know. I didn't shoot the movie last 20 years less than 1 year, which is amount of time that, and lately I was spending my own money just to be on my way to do it your way, what they call on my way to transcendency.
Да, кстати, вот когда вы сказали, что вам повезло, и в начале своей карьеры, ну, рано признание выскочили на Олимп звезды, символа югославского кинематографа, это на вас давило? Это было давлением на вас как на художника, как, что мне нужно теперь доказывать с каждым фильмом, что у меня есть талант, что я должен, что это не случайность, и это тоже, ну, что, было ли это давлением для вас?
Это было очень, очень огромное давление, но I must say that my feeling about myself was always quite miserable. I've never taken myself seriously. You know, when I was doing a movie with Maradona, he was always speaking in third person, as if he was not Maradona. He said, you know, Maradona was going there, Maradona was getting here. And I didn't take myself that serious because I'm coming from the generation of the new wave in rock and roll which was produced in the West. Mainly, I was a very good friend of people from the Clash, and I am still somebody who does not respect star system. When I was supposed to put a black outfit to go to Cannes, it was a part of my duty. It was not something that I never enjoyed, and I tried to be as much as possible calm down. But I am not adopted to a system that has this kind of what you have as a young man, you could be today very much relaxed. We have a burden of the difference in between that of rock and roll and the punk music that was not designed by Malcolm McLaren, that was really coming to show the end of era. It was corresponding to the fall of Berlin Wall. It was corresponding to kind of more direct connection between musicians, filmmakers, and it took probably the period in between 89, even earlier, 80, probably to almost to the end of the century. That's how I explain him even playing with my band all over the world for 24 years. We just stopped 2 or 3 months ago.
Про цензуру хочу вас спросить. Я знаю, что ваш телевизионный фильм вначале был зацензурирован, не вышел. Какую степень цензуры вы считаете нормальной? Вот. Полная свобода для режиссера — это хорошо, или он должен бороться? Ну, я уже вы рассказали, что вы боретесь каждый раз. Но вот про именно цензуру, что вы можете сказать, учитывая ваш личный...
Я думаю, что I do think that censorship is something that brings us, when the Western Europe is concerned, to the past. But censorship today is turned upside down. It's not anymore against pornography, but censorship is now about requesting to have, I don't know if you heard the other day, they printed what you should do if you want to be qualified for an Oscar. You have to have one gay, you have to have one black, you have to have one, you have to have. So this is censorship.
Да, безусловно.
This is absolutely censorship that is not told, but it's in the frame of political correctness. Political correctness is the new, I would say, new sense, auto-censorship that goes to the period of Soviet Russia. You don't have it here now. You don't need to do, you probably don't need to speak about everybody. You have to be polite, but you don't have this kind of wide range of limitations. How can somebody be stupid and say, in order to make a successful movie, you have to have a gay, you have to have a lesbian, you have to have a transgender, you have to have a child that wants to be an animal if it's 10 years old, and on and on and on. This is new censorship. This is new political idea that is fitting into the new ideology. Luckily, happily, it doesn't get to this part of the world.
Как вы отнеслись, когда ваш фильм зацензурировали? Как вы это восприняли?
I have remembered that my film, the first film that I made was for television, was banned, but somehow was shown after hours. And the film, do you remember Dolly Bell, which is my first feature, was co-produced in between television and a small studio. It was a letter by the general manager of television to ban the screening of the movie. But it was kind of about Tito's death, which was a big game changer in the history of Yugoslavia. This guy was waiting Tito to die, so for this reason he brought this couch into his office, and he was just counting who is good, who is not, and he found my movie that was under the radar, was made, and he was kind of mild dictatorship way of communicating. So she said, I prohibit screening of this movie, but movie was already, copy was in Venice. So he couldn't stop it, because he was intelligent enough. And but later on I didn't have a problem. I think censorship is also the question of measure. You know, the main thing in the antique Greek period was that everything we do outside is measured by our sense of measure. And if you have a sense of measure for anything you do, within the family, within the government, within the reconstruction of history, or whatever you do, you just you are lucky because even if you show sexual act, it needs to be somehow connected to what we have taken from the first paintings in the ancient Greek vases, where the sexual act was quite funny. So either you'll be funny or you'll be passionate, otherwise you're getting pornography. And I think today the reduction, reduced expression very often leading us to this kind of pornographic feeling, even if there is no sexual act.
Понятно. Есть ли у вас фильм, о котором вы мечтаете, Dream Project? Если да, то что с ним происходит?
I'm very close. I'm very close to. I'm finishing the second draft of the Nikolai Vasilievich Gogol Dead Soul, and I know that I will go through the nightmare with the people who will attack me for being original and trying to see how Gogol was affecting me as a person, not what he wrote. Because there are a lot of limitations in the Russian classics. And not for no reason, Chekhov wrote one story which is called the Boring Story, and asking why all the classics in Russia are limited by the low limits of erotism, of many other things. And I think Nikolai Vasilievich Gogol, who was a great author, was developing his world, and if you just go just for this classical world, if you don't play with elements that he just hints, then you could make illustration, and then you're going to be less good than he was. So I think the interpretation of Dead Soul will be combined with the revisor and combined with the, how you call it, Sorochin market story, in which there is a very fantastic story about the devil in the form of pig. So this is something that is very close to be done.
Прекрасно, очень ждем. Собственно, вы заговорили про документальный фильм про Марадону, и мне интересно ваше мнение про биографический байопик, это сложный жанр, байопик. И мне интересно, есть ли человек, про которого вы бы хотели снять художественный байопик? И какой ваш любимый байопик?
This is a very difficult one. I don't know who, we are living the period of time when, for example, in sport, if you have to make a movie about David Beckham, what can you do about him? He was a good football player, and there is no controversy, there is no contradiction, there is nothing that brings you to the good outcome, because the life was rich with the opposite energies and with kind of extremes, like Maradona.
Но это не обязательно должен быть спортсмен, может быть вообще человек, про которого вы бы хотели снять художественный фильм, байопик, в любой сфере, в любое время.
From today.
В любое время.
Да.
Есть ли для вас интересный человек для байопика, который вы бы сняли?
Если бы был в 19 столетии, я бы сделал фильм о Николае Васильевиче Гоголе.
Про Гоголя?
Гоголя, да.
Понятно. А ваш любимый фильм байопик есть? Какой у вас любимый байопик?
Любимый фильм байопик? I cannot, my memory doesn't work at the moment, but I will tell you after the next question.
Okay. Я был у вас в Константинополе, и мне очень понравилась атмосфера, что там студенты имеют возможность общаться с вами и с другими приглашенными звездами, которых они уважают, на которых они молятся. И вы очень в тесном кругу, все общаются, едят, ходят на концерт, смотрят кино. И я уверен, что это очень вдохновляет молодых кинематографистов стремиться работать, снимать И там у меня такой вопрос, почему вы не создадите или там возглавите свою собственную киноакадемию сербского кинематографа, и какое у вас отношение вот, к передаче своего опыта вот, в более академическом формате, не просто как бы фестиваль, а именно обучение школьного такого?
Yeah, this is a very good idea. I was thinking about how to make it, but you know, this is the first year when I spent 1 month on the seaside, because I was playing music for 25 years. I was so busy. We were playing all over the place. So, speaking about the possibility of making academic plays, it needs a lot of good, I would say, good vibes and good atmosphere in society. And to teach people, might be it's better to have a 7-day seminary during the festival than to have a school. If you build a school, you have to spend. I remember Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who was a teacher in Cuba. He was teaching the writing, and he was telling me that this was one of the most difficult parts of his life, because it's too much energy diverting from what he wanted to do. But it's a good idea. Might be the festival in the future we do at the seminary 7 days, in which I will say what I believe and what I think cinema is. Even it's difficult today. Cinema is in a great transformation, especially the way that cinema is projected and shown.
Есть ли фильм в мировом кино, который вы смотрите и думаете, что вы бы отдали все свои фильмы, чтобы снять вот такой фильм? И какой из своих фильмов вы бы не отдали?
You know, the secret about my life in art is that I was not delegated by any DNA or anything that is just telling you the family that I was coming from, and anything that is existing around me that was just indicating one day I'm going to make some good films or some films. So when I made the first one, I was doing it in a kind of tornado that brings me and takes me away from the life. And then this asylum, almost like this Christian early sadomasochist, not beating but kind of having suffer as the main consequence of the process through which I was going. So each movie that I was doing, it's like suffering like an animal. That's why probably most of these films have been passionate for me and for those people who love them. I was never going up to the big numbers, big figures around the world. You know, it's very, very funny. You make an art movie that is also partly commercial, and then it starts functioning for years. For example, Black Cat, White Cat was in one screening room playing 14 years in Barcelona. And that was probably my biggest achievement, you know, in one cinema, 14 years, every night you have one film.
Вы слышали цитату такую Андрея Тарковского, который сказал, что мои фильмы самые кассовые, потому что их будут смотреть вечно.
This is exactly what I was trying to tell you, but I'm not smart as Tarkovsky was. You know, when I watch the period of time, each time in a film I do, it comes out in Paris, and it goes so slow. It makes, 15,000, 20,000, but then it plays for almost a year, and it makes million admissions in France at that time, the end of the century. But what my position as the guy who was doing the movie in the previous century, I think a lot of things have been changed. And since I was very much author doing a lot of experiments, doing some kind of experimental cinema, especially in underground, in Arizona Dream. Today I think what you could come out with, if you're my age, is a much more classical way, but still passionate so people can glue to the theater, to the screen.
Ну, мои вопросы, в общем-то, закончились, как и наше время, но у меня есть один бонусный вопрос от нашего общего друга Милоша Биковича. Я его задам. А он говорит, что ему всегда нравилось хулиганство и образованность, и ум, и благородное безобразие, которое он считает в себе, и поэтому хочет спросить, вы сочетаете в себе, которые вы все эти качества вы сочетаете в себе. Поэтому он хочет спросить, правда ли, что вы сказали организаторам крупного фестиваля, что не можете появиться на церемонии вручения премии, потому что вам надо помочь своему другу переложить паркет в квартире. И если это так, то сколько вы берете за перекладку паркета?
You know, 1985, when Father was away, Papa na Komandirovke was shown in Cannes. Everybody was telling me you will win. I was a young boy. I was 36. No, 30 something. And going from one photo session to another photo session, making interviews, doing blah blah blah. After 2 days, I said, I go home. I cannot stand it anymore. It's too noisy. It's not good for me. And they were telling me, no, you don't have to go. You have to stay. You have a great chance. You will win. You know. I said, how can I win? There is no way that I win. And after a few days, I said, packed my stuff and I went back to Sarajevo. And now you have a major event in Bosnia, I think in the history after World War II. After assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the Papa Komandirovke won Golden Palm. I am in Sarajevo, and now journalists are asking me, how come you are not in Cannes, and how come somebody else is receiving a Golden Palm? And very quickly it came to my mind, if I start describing, if I start telling, these communists, they don't let me stay, and following my real feeling, I'm not good for these ceremonies, and I'm not good for these nail-eating situations. And I said, you know what, I was very busy, I was putting the floor of the kitchen of my friend. And then all these middle-class people started showing the hate against me, because how can you insult such a holy place of cinema and say that you were putting a wood on the floor of the kitchen? But it was me, myself, always. And then when I was in Cannes, I'm a kind of man who was making myself adopted to the end of century. And the end of century was a collapse of communism. And all my movies were just reflections to what was going on in my country, including the finishing with the film Life is a Miracle. So I was very much on the fracture of the centuries, profiting, as they say in the West, especially in France, profiting regarding themes and regarding both the history and the feelings of individuals and their existential problems. That's why I don't envy you doing movies now, because now it's like, I don't know, what is the major determinant or what determines cinema today? You're not lucky as I was or we were in this period between 78 until 92, 93. It was very rich photo finish of the ending of the century with a lot of changes. And these changes started much earlier. Now they are on.
Спасибо огромное. Была честь разговаривать с вами.
I just want to thank organizers to bring me here because it was almost impossible, but we did it. I'm very happy that there is such an organization called BRICS. It's the end of the tunnel throughout which most of the world goes, being pushed, being humiliated very often, not always. Порой быть скромными и даже смиренными — это действительно необходимо, но это не всегда, потому что наш век принес что сейчас происходит. And if you look at the history, you always have to go to the parallel of existence. The Ukrainian war, however bloody and difficult to accept as a point in the history, has accelerated